Jesus echoes these very startling words from the prophet Isaiah in this gospel passage today. He says, "This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." Giving lip service, our hearts are not there. How do you get your heart closer to God? Over the course of the past 8 weeks, I've invited you to join me in this little school of prayer. I've tried to make this school, a little fun, with quizzes and homework, and all kind of in an effort to get you to remember these 4 essential habits of prayer. But first, remember prayer. It's about a relationship. It's a two-way street. It's a mutual loving and knowing. And God wants to know and love us and wants us to know and love Him. And God initiates this relationship by calling us into His divine love. And it's there that we find peace and joy, healing and forgiveness. And aren't those things that we really look for? And again, I don't mean peace and joy, woohoo, life is wonderful. But just that deep inner sense of, I know that there's more, and the place to find that more is indeed with God. So those 4 habits of prayer, remember what they are. We start with, first, acknowledge, and we acknowledge the movements of our hearts. What's going on in your life? What's your heart feeling? What are your thoughts? What are your desires? Second, take those movements of your heart and relate them to God. Tell God what's going on in your life. Third, receive whatever it is that God wants to give you. Fourth, respond by following Jesus wherever He leads you. You may recall I also mentioned that this is not a method of prayer, like praying the rosary. I didn't teach you how to pray the rosary, although if you'd like that, you can get a hold of me and I'll teach you how to do that. But rather, it's an attitude with which you approach prayer. You see, each of these habits are emphasized at different times in different ways, so that prayer is not merely a time set aside each day, but that each day is a prayer. And you might ask, well, how do I grow in this? How do I grow in receptivity? How can I effectively respond to God's invitation? As I was writing this, I thought of the old days of TVs with antennas. Remember the TV on top of the antenna, and you had to adjust it so that you could get the picture just right, and then stay still, hold it right there. Yeah, how do you be that kind of receptive? Can you avoid lip service and move your heart closer to Jesus? Well, 2 things: honesty and consistency. Be honest. Be honest about your life. It's not what I want my life to be. It's not what I want. It's not about what I want. And it's not about what I think others want me to be. But it is about what God wants for me and what God wants from me. And this can be so difficult. We might even fear or even despise what we see in ourselves. Our feelings may not be in line with what reality is. But even in that, take comfort. Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. And if our hearts or even our lives are messed up and not the way they should be, then who better to give all of that to than Jesus? Isn't that why He gets so upset with the Pharisees in the gospel? Their lives are a mess. They don't even realize it. And nor do they realize or accept what Jesus can do for them because they're not honest. Be honest. Second, be consistent. I was thinking about golf when I wrote this. Be consistent. In golf, there's only one thing that's consistent, and that's being inconsistent. But being consistent is not about doing the same thing. Because like in golf, you could play the same course over and over and over again many, many times and never twice hit the same shot. Consistency is different than that. See, whereas you need to set time aside every day for personal prayer, even Jesus says, go to your room and pray to your Father in secret, and what your Father sees, He will reward you. But you see, you can't stop there. You can't say, well, I've said my prayers, I'm done for the day. Like I go to the gym, I exercised for my hour, now I can go home and sit on the couch for the rest of the day. No. We have to make a choice, and the choice is to offer each moment of our day to God. every moment of every day to our God. You talk to your family and friends about your life throughout the course of the day, don't you? Why not talk to God about the same thing? That's consistency. You know, relationships, they always make life interesting, don't they? Good, bad, or indifferent. And of course, with any kind of a good relationship, there's never going to be a dull moment. Even with a bad relationship, there's never going to be a dull moment. And the same is true with God. But you see, if you make no time to acknowledge and relate the movements of your heart to God, if you refuse to receive what God offers you, if you don't respond to his promptings in your life is going to be superficial. It's going to be dull. It's going to be boring. And you'll be no better than the Pharisees in the gospel today, who are only concerned about, did they wash their hands? Now, mind you, it's a good thing to wash your hands before you eat dinner. But come on. Listen again to what Moses said to the people in the first reading from Deuteronomy. Observe these commands carefully, for thus you will give evidence of your wisdom and intelligence to the nations. Observing commands. Listen to this. Observing commands gives evidence of your wisdom and your intelligence. And he goes on to say, for what great nation is there that has God so close to it as the Lord our God is to us whenever we call upon him? And when we make these four essential habits of relating, acknowledging, receiving, and responding to God in prayer, he will indeed be close to us, and our hearts will be close to him.